Hey, this is Overpass Insights. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today, let's talk about getting paid more as a software developer. Alright, so today I want to answer a comment that came in on a video a couple of days ago from Suman Day. Suman says, "Hi sir, after completing Android development, making a few apps, I got a job in a company, but they pay me 7,000 rupees per month, which is too less, sir. Will you please suggest some other option to earn money? Please reply, sir, I'm from India." So thank you very much for that question, Suman. I think what you're asking is, like, you're not making enough in your job, so like what other things could you do to make a bit of extra money? And I guess there's lots of things I can answer. I don't know what it's like in India, but I mean, you could get like a part-time job on the side, or you could release an app and then hopefully get something that brings a little bit of passive revenue, but that's going to be harder than you think. It takes a while to get up there and you have to keep working at it and everything, etc., etc. But what I really think you need to do is get a better job and get paid more. I didn't even know what 7,000 rupees was, so I looked it up, and I guess it's like 75 pounds a month, and I make more than that per hour, right? So I don't know how you can live on that. I think you definitely need to either get them to pay you more money or go to another job. And the thing is, I know that sounds a lot easier than it actually is. I've been in situations where I wasn't getting paid enough money. In fact, the last permanent job I had, which was, it was over 15 years ago. The last time I was actually working as an employee someplace, I wasn't paid very well. I mean, it was almost at the lower end of average for the industry, what I was working on. So I had this job, it was my second job in IT, and I had this job in a company. It was a small company, and they paid me, I won't say what it is because depending on where you live and the time, but for that time, it was just on the lower end of average. Like, it was okay. I took a little bit of a cut because it was closer to home, but whatever. But then after a while, say after a year or so, I realized it just wasn't enough. Like, there was supposed to be some sort of review or bonus, but that never came. The company was doing really well, so I had to do that thing which I don't know if you guys have ever done. I don't know if you guys have ever had to go into your boss's office and ask for a raise, but I hated doing that. So I had to go into the managing director's office, and it was a small company, so it was just like a small little startup which was doing really, really well. So I had to go into the managing director's office, and I went in hat in hand and I've been on the same salary for a long time now, and I think I need more money. We just had another baby. I had two small children at home. I'm having trouble making ends meet. If there's anything I could do, I want to just make more money. And basically what I was doing was I was appealing to their good nature to increase my salary, right? I went in there hat in hand, and there was this pause. It was like after I asked for the raise, there was this pause where she was looking at me and not saying anything. So, and this I cringe when I think about this. I am so embarrassed about this. I even said I could do the dishes every day because it was a small office and it was like, a rota, and I said, I'll do all the dishes and I'll clean up the office, and I was belittling myself because I was a software developer. I was the only software developer in the place. It was, a lot of things. Things kept running a lot of the times because of what I was doing, but I had my concept of my own value was very, very low, which I think a lot of that was by design. And the answer I got was, "Ooh, Eric, yeah, we'd really like to, but the industry average for your job it's because the economy is so bad, it's actually lower than what you're making. So, but you know what, I'll tell you what, let's review this in 2 to 3 months, right?" And so you wait 2 to 3 months, and then you do it again. And after that, I think I just became miserable in the job. I mean, to be honest with you, it was, there was a lot of things there. It was a kind of situation where in retrospect, it was in their best interest to keep my self-esteem low, to get me thinking that I was worth less than I actually was, and to keep me but just pay me just enough to keep me from looking, but I still had to look because, you don't want to lose this at least you have something, and you don't want to abandon it for something else when at least, it could be more, but it might be less, or it might be worse. What if I go from the firing pan and into the fire? But anyway, so I had that conversation, and I was very upset. I was very upset that I went in there, hat in hand, and just and pleaded my case and said how much I needed the extra money, and I didn't get it. I felt like I felt a little less valuable. I felt like I felt impotent. I felt impotent as a man, because as the father, as the husband, it was my job to actually take care of everybody, and I wasn't doing a very good job at that. So do you know what I did? I did nothing. I waited. And we had this conversation a few months down the road, a few months down the road again, a few months down the road, and it was just nothing ever happened. I was hoping for the situation to change, but I was taking more courses, I couldn't afford to take any courses, so I was taking a bunch of free courses that were available, online, and I was reading everything that I could. I was going to the public library to check out books, like the old computer books, or whatever, or if I could get them to order something new so that I would have something. And I was increasing my skill, and I was taking on extra responsibilities in the company, because I figured so I started answering the support desk, and I started doing all this kind of stuff that was really the jobs that nobody else wanted to do. I started doing them because I was going to show them that I deserved to earn more money. And in the end, I went back to them and said, okay, like a year later, I go back and I say, okay, this is, I've been taking a lot more responsibilities. I said, we're really impressed with how much you're doing around here. We're really glad about the enthusiasm that you bring to the job, and it's such a turnaround. And then I asked for the raise, and it was like, ooh, yeah, the thing is, though, the industry average, and it was like, and they actually offered to change my job title from web developer to web developer / customer support manager, which was a role change, as a title change to keep me happy. But when I found out there was no extra money came with it, I said, I'm not interested, thank you. And even then, it was like another year before I actually left that place. And it wasn't until I was ready to leave that they actually made me an offer for a little bit of extra money. And by that time, I was gone, right? I was done with them. They were dead to me, right? I moved on. I mean, and it was sort of like, and when I did go to someplace else, which was like, again, as a contract, I was making a lot more money, and I realized that I was a lot more valuable than I was, right? And it was, and I realized after the fact that the only reason that they would have increased my pay was because I had other options. Because there were other things on the table, and I was more valuable to them than they were paying me for. I mean, there's this phrase that we say, saying, do more than you're paid for. And the reason we say that is because by doing more than you're paying for, by adding more value than you're actually being paid for, only then can you make the argument at some point that you're not paid as much. And then you keep increasing the value that you provide. And I tell you what, any employer would love for you to add more value than they pay you for. They would love for that to happen. And then it also gives you options, because then they're able to see what you're able to do going forward. A few years later, so that was my last time as a permanent employee, and I swore to myself I would never ever put myself in that position again where I have somebody else has control over me. I'm hoping that they're going to be nice enough to pay me enough. I'm hoping that they're going to be nice enough to give me what I need. And to be honest with you, there are going to be there are going to be companies that you work for that are going to want to pay you less than you're worth. And after the pandemic, there's going to be a lot of them, because there's going to be a lot of people out there looking for work, and some of these companies can't afford to pay you what you're worth, but you still have to make that case, and you still have to be constantly looking, right? I would say if you're being paid 7,000 rupees per month, you are still on the job market. I don't care if you have a job. You should still be looking. In fact, I think no matter how much you get paid, you should still be looking. And when I talk about that, a lot of times people say, well, what about employee loyalty? What about employer loyalty? What about the loyalty between that? And you got to understand that how small that is, right? You're only responsible to one person. Well, actually, you're responsible to yourself and to your family. And by providing more value to the people that are employing you, you're doing them a service, and you're also doing yourself a service, and you just have to deal with that. A few years later, I was at a contract, and I was making, my daily rate was 400 pounds a day, which was actually, it was pretty good at the time. This was a while ago. It was 400 pounds a day. It was a contract. I was doing a lot of work. I was working a lot of hours, you know, so just making sure everything works on time. You know, I'm getting into solving problems. You know, I don't go to people for help a lot. I'm just like, I can figure these things out. I read a lot. I'm always improving my technology. Like, I'm a professional. I act like a professional. The same way a professional athlete goes to like a professional baseball player goes to the batting cages and hits balls. I was working on projects at home. I was reading about the new technologies that were coming out. That's my job, and that's my responsibility, not just to myself, but to my family and to all that kind of stuff. And I was working at 400 pounds a day, and I was working a contract, and because I would never go back into permanent employment again. I don't care if they say, oh, but the benefits, you got medical, you got this life insurance, you got all this stuff. Is that, dude, pay me enough and I'll get that stuff on my own, right? I want to be in charge of my education. I want to be in charge of my where I go, whatever. I just want to and I want to know when this contract ends, and we can renew at that time. And I've had companies say, we would like to, where I've been contracting, where they'd say, we'd like to make you a permanent member of staff. And it's like, yeah, I'm not interested, you know, and they can't figure it out why I would want to have this life of short-term contracts as opposed to the security that they provide. But then, like, I don't want to fall into that trap again. Right. So anyway, so I was making 400 a day, and my contract was coming up for renewal. So I said, I'm looking to move on. I want some more challenges to do some more stuff, and you know, I could get paid more elsewhere. That's all I said. I didn't say like, please pay me more money. I think I deserve more. I think whatever. That was it. Right. And they went away and they said, oh, geez, is there anything we could do? And I said, well, I think, I'm really good. I mean, I really was. I was just ready to go. I was like, and anyway, long story short, overnight, my contract rate went from 400 pounds a day to 500 pounds a day. It was this huge increase. And like even then the manager was like, ooh, like he was doing me a favor. But no, the truth is that me leaving, like, I took on so much responsibility. I provided so much value. And I was always in the right frame of mind. I was the enthusiasm to bring to projects, being able to constantly being able to have that confidence in the job, that me leaving would have left an Eric-sized hole in the team. And that hole, because of the work and the value that I provided, was significant. I mean, it's difficult to say that. I mean, I know what it's like to go in and ask for more money. And if you're not in a good position, if you don't know what options you have, if you don't know what else is available out there on the market, then you go in there with nothing except hoping that they'll be nice enough to give that to you. And I think the assumption should always be that they're looking out for their best interests over your best interests. And you should always be looking out for your own interests over theirs. I mean, when I work for somebody, I'm 100% in their service, right? I don't renegotiate in the middle of a contract. I don't hold back and say they're not paying me enough, so I'm not going to do enough. No, I am full on 100% when I'm working with somebody now, right? But I expect and I demand to be paid enough. And if I'm not, if I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, I know what my options are, and I've always moved to those other jobs, right? And that is not just doing well in the job that you're doing. You have to be, you don't just have to walk the walk, you also have to be able to talk the talk. You have to get your CV tight. You bring on jobs and work on open source projects that build up your CV, that build up everything about it, so that when you look at all the software developers together, you stand head and shoulders above the rest. You might not be the best in the world, but you're better than those that surround you. They're better than the others on your team. You're constantly improving yourself and demanding the value that you deserve. I could tell you from experience, both as an employee, as a contractor, and as an employer, that there are a lot of developers out there who don't provide value. There are a lot of developers who add cost but no value. They don't take anything away. I'll hire somebody on, they ask me questions all day, they need me to hold their hand for a bunch of stuff, they don't save me any time, they don't make me any money, and they cost me, and then I have to let them go because, that's just there's people out there who are just mediocre. They're not interested in becoming better at what they do. And if you're one of those people who can, then you stand head and shoulders above everybody else, right? And and again, this is something where people will say, I get CVs a lot. People will send me like, I want to work for you, Eric, because you seem like a nice guy and I'm sure you will pay well. And it's like, I don't pay more than I can afford. I don't pay more than the value that I get, right? I'm just like everybody else, right? It's a good relationship, if any kind of relationship, even if you're like, if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, if they're constantly improving themselves and they have other options besides you and you have other options beside you and you're constantly improving yourself, but you stay together because of the value that you bring to each other, then that is pure and that is the way that it should be. I could kick myself for going into that office and asking for a raise with nothing to back it up, with no sense of my own value, with not even knowing what else was out there on the job market. And I will never do that again. And Sudan, you're not getting paid enough money, right? You might not have to be in a good bargaining position at the moment, but you need to get yourself into that position. And I would say that to any software developer. Don't fall for the employee loyalty trap. Don't fall for the company that tries to make you feel less than what you are. Don't let them belittle you. Don't let them make you feel small. We are software developers. We are not fast food restaurant workers, and you need to demand the value that you're worth. Sorry, this is a long rant today. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. First of all, let me know if you disagree with me. This is one of those kind of things. If I might be a bit cynical when it comes to this kind of stuff because I've been there and I know what it's like. And I still harbor regrets about that company and those people. And I try to be very zen-like and positive, but sometimes, anyway, I hope you guys. That's off my chest. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Have a great week. Please put your opinions in the comments. If you've ever been in a situation like that, please put it in the comments if you're willing to. We have a lot more in common as software developers than are different. Anyway, have a great day. I'll talk to you again next time.